Welcome to Final Approach with Chris Gregory. I am a philomath who is somebody who loves to learn things. One of the things that I've learned is that everyone has a tale to tell and a lesson to teach. From pilots to farriers to musicians to authors and creators, I'm going to explore my interests while introducing you to some amazing people. Pre-flight is complete and we have clearance, so let's kick the tires and start the fires. My next guest is one of the most generous and genuine men that I know. Cris Rodriguez has been a longtime friend and customer of Heartland Horseshoeing School. His fascinating and inspirational story deserves to be told. In 2022, Cris and his friend rode their horses from Southwest Missouri to Mount Rushmore in South Dakota. You're going to enjoy getting to meet Cris, so sit back and listen. We are cleared for takeoff. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here with cowboy legend Cris Rodriguez, a good friend for decades. How long have we known each other?
Oh, it's been over 20 years,
Yeah.
Probably 23, 24 years.
So I could say a couple of decades or over a score, huh?
Yes.
And so Cris is a cowboy extraordinaire, has helped hundreds of young people learn about horses and the love of cowboy life. Last year made a historic ride from Missouri to Mount Rushmore, and we're Southwest Missouri. So you're like, what, 60 days on the road?
We were out 51 days.
51 days. And so we're going to talk a lot about that. Cris has had a career in psychology and is a avid swimmer. I've seen this man get hurt beyond what he should be doing, and then he gets up and walks away from it. And so there's a lot to talk about. Well, I guess we'll start out. Why don't you tell us who you are, where you're from, how old you are, whatever you want to tell us.
All right. Well, my name is Cris Rodriguez, and I was born and raised here in Southwest Missouri, down in a little town called Neosho, Missouri. It's not little anymore. It's gotten a little bit bigger. Grew up, family of 9 kids, 5 boys, 4 girls.
Where did you fit?
I was number 2.
Number 2, okay.
Number 2. Yeah, grew up down there. It was pretty crowded growing up, of course, with 9 kids and everything. We grew up there, didn't know a lot about horses at first. We moved out into the country. Neighbors had horses and stuff, and I really just immediately was interested in horses.
Besides having kids, what did your folks do for a living?
My dad was from Nuevo Laredo, Texas, and he was in the service and met my mother there at Camp Crowder. She was selling popcorn at the theater.
All right.
And that's where they met. So my dad really never had any interest in the horses or anything like that, but he knew that we did.
So did you grow up while he was staying in Camp Crowder to the service?
No, they were married, and then after that, he worked for a company called Union Carbide and worked there his whole life. And my mom was pretty much at home with us kids the whole time because so many kids. We ranged from the oldest, there's 18 years span between the youngest and the oldest. So
wow.
Quite a house full.
That is awesome.
Yeah. And, we had a lot of extended family too. All of our relatives lived down there, but we also had brought in a lot of people off the street, I guess, that grew up in our house as well, because our house was a hub for activity. And with all the different age kids, people were always at our house.
I'll be dang. Well, that explains a lot about you that I didn't know. I mean, you're, like when the students come, you're always anxious to visit with them, and, you're feeding them, and so that explains a lot, Cris.
Yeah. So our family was pretty hospitable with everybody in there. And I don't know, we had people living on the couch, sleeping on the couch, everything like that all the time growing up. I got started in horses when I was 9 years old. Our dad got us a pony, I think just to keep us busy and out of the house a lot. But I had one other younger brother, Robert, who was also, he got the horse bug too. So the two of us had the horse bug, and we played with ponies. Our neighbors used to buy ponies at horse sales, and then they'd send them down to us, and we'd ride them things all over the place.
Until you're done with them.
Until we're done with them, and or broke a lot of stuff around the place. My dad used to buy a steer or two every year, and Robert and I would take it out and tie it to a telephone pole and put a rope around its waist and hang on to it until it wrapped itself up, and then the next one get on and go the other direction.
Kind of a form of a tetherball for ranch kids.
Yes. That's where we learned a lot of that. And then I had a couple good mentors, that kind of took us under their wing. They were older gentlemen They both lived down the road, and they had a couple of horses, and they took Robert and I under their wing and taught us a lot about horses that we didn't know. And we finally got a big horse, and her name was Patches, and Dad bought her, and she cost us $60. She wasn't broke.
What year?
That was probably 1969.
69. So I was born in 68. So I don't know what a $60 horse in 69 was like.
Well, we learned to ride that horse in a plowed cornfield because that way it didn't hurt when you got thrown off. And we rode that horse, probably for a month before we brought her home. The guy would let us come over and ride her, and we brought her home. So we learned everything we did was bareback. We had no saddle. And I remember the day we finally got a saddle. The saddle cost $65, and we paid $60 for the horse.
All right. So combined 125 invested. Yes. All right.
So from there, I mean, I just started riding, and I don't know if it was just to get away from the crowd or whatever at the house. It was always so busy, but I used to ride to my grandmother's. It was about 8 miles away. I'd ride to my friend's house. I was always on the horse. I had a couple other friends. We'd ride to town, and we were always on the horses, riding and stuff. That was the first thing I did in the morning. Sometimes I'd sleep out in the yard on a cot. We didn't have air conditioning or anything, and sleep out by the fence by the horses.
You know, I've often wondered about how tough people had to be back then to live in Southwest Missouri without air conditioning. I meet Amish people in Minnesota or something, and they say, oh, man, I can never be Amish in Missouri because of the heat in the summer. Yeah. It must have been pretty brutal.
Oh, it was warm, and our house was hot. We didn't have air conditioning, and like I said, we'd get cots or whatever, or lawn chairs, and we'd sleep outside because it'd be so hot. Now, in the wintertime, the house was cold. It was so cold you could scrape your name in the window on the inside because it had ice on the inside. But
I grew up in a house like that.
Yeah, but I do remember when we got the wood stove and got it going and everything. You know, in the mornings before school started, it was a race to get down to the heater because everybody we just looked like stacks of wood laying there, all the kids trying to get warm next in front of me. But it was cold. It was a older home, and it did, work for us. And like I said, it was always crowded with people.
Yep. Now, how many acres did you guys have?
We only had 6 acres there.
Okay.
So we didn't have much land or anything like that.
Still enough for a kid to grow up on, though.
Oh, yeah. It was plenty. And we had the whole neighborhood. There was probably, 1, 2, 3, 4, probably about 8 families on that street. And they all had boys about our age.
Oh, wow.
We were either on our bikes, on our horses. We actually had hundreds of acres to play in.
So would you guys text each other when it's time to go?
Yeah. On the weekend, you leave the house in the morning and you're supposed to be home by dinner time. At that time, basically the parents, if they needed you, they would call one of the neighbor's house and say, have you seen the boys? And, they say, no, they're down the street, the other neighbor's house. And so it was all done through phone calls, no cell phones in or anything. Much quieter life, I think.
I think so. Yeah. I miss it. That saying of when the phone was tied to the wall, man was free.
Yes.
So how old were you left home?
I was 18. I went to college at Southwest Missouri State University, which is now MSU, I think now. It's called
something. Did you go on a scholarship or?
No, we didn't have a scholarship. We didn't have much money.
How'd you pay for it?
Well, I had a grant, and then I took out a student loan to go. And at that time, I think my 4 years of college was $8,000. So
I know. Yeah, what a different world, huh?
Oh, crazy what it costs now for kids to go to school. And I worked during school, too. I had jobs at school that I taught swim lessons. I worked at the YMCA. I worked at waiter, any kind of jobs we could find. And then we'd come home on the weekends, and there was a veterinarian in Neosho that we worked for as we grew up too. And so we'd go back on the weekends, work for him, build fence, things like that. So
wherever you could make $1, huh?
Yeah. And we always had, enough, a little bit of cash to get by and everything. And
so this is the late 70s, I'm thinking?
Yeah, this was, I graduated from high school in 75.
Okay.
I was in college until 80, and I got my degree in therapeutic recreation. And while I was there, we had to read a lot of journals and magazines and stuff. And I saw an article about teaching individuals with disabilities how to ski. And I thought, boy, that's what I want to do. I want to go to the mountains. So I applied at Winter Park, Colorado to do, they have a really large and well-known program out there for people with disabilities.
At this point, you hadn't gone skiing, right?
No, I had not gone skiing. I didn't even know how to ski.
Okay. All right.
I got accepted out there. They never asked me if I knew how to ski. I got accepted. I showed up. And I'll never forget the very first day. I didn't even have any skis or boots or anything. So they outfitted me with skis and boots and stuff. And I managed to we were doing clinics. So they're going through clinics before the ski area opens and before classes start. And all the instructors get on the lift. And I worked my way out to the lift with my poles and stuff to get out there. And I got on the lift, didn't know what I was doing. And so all the instructors got off before me, and they're standing down the hill with the director who's standing in front of them, getting ready to kind of go through some basics of, how things are going to operate. I get off the ski lift. I come straight down. I knocked out about 3 of them and crashed down at the bottom.
Hi, my name's Chris.
Yeah, it was pretty embarrassing. I got back into the office, and the director called me in, and he goes, "What were you thinking?" He goes, "Do you know how to ski?" And I said, "Nope." I said, "You never asked me if I knew how to ski." And he goes, "You got a lot of mustard coming out here to do something like that." He had other terms for that. But so anyway, he goes, "I'm going to give you 2 weeks." And he goes, "You need to learn to ski and to teach skiing. And I'm going to give you 2 weeks to do it." So I worked my rear end off for 2 weeks, learning how to ski, but also following other instructors and everything and just trying to pick up whatever I could. And I ended up being out there for 5 years.
Wow. Now, the people that you knocked down that you first met like that, did they become friends? Or
yeah. Yeah, we were all good friends after that. Yeah, nobody got mad. And, it was kind of a big laugh, throughout the years and stuff like that. We had a really good rapport. And I ended up teaching a lot of skiing and actually traveled quite a bit to other places doing some clinics and stuff skiing. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So that was a good part. And then in the summer times, I worked for a camp and we did venture programs for kids with disabilities or high risk kids. I was in Minnesota quite a bit. We were on the reservations up there and
wow,
did a lot of things up there with kids in like high ropes course, climbing, rappelling, and those kind of things. So
all mountain stuff. Summer and winter.
Yeah, summer and winter. And so I really enjoyed doing all that. It was a great life. I did that up until came back to Missouri. I always wanted to go back to the original camp in Missouri where I did some work before. And I ended up coming back, went to Columbia, University of Missouri, worked on my master's up there in therapeutic recreation, and then ended up getting to be the director of the camp that I started at when I was 18.
Oh, I'll be dang. So what year was that?
That was in 1980. That would have been in 88.
So you were like 8 years doing the rappelling and skiing in the mountain area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And traveling and stuff.
Now, your wife is a lovely woman, Donna.
Yes.
When did you meet her?
Okay. That's coming up.
We're coming. All right.
Okay. So I'm at camp. This is kind of an interesting story. My brother was dating this girl. Her name was Chris as well. And her roommate, her name was Donna. And so I was in St. Louis now, and they were in St. Louis. And I was over there visiting one time, and Donna was there. And she actually had a date with somebody else when I was visiting my brother and his girlfriend. So Donna also had a degree in recreation. She'd gone to SMU too. She's 5 years younger than I am. So I didn't know her at college or anything. But the interesting thing was, so Donna was looking for another job at the time, and I was working as director, but they needed a program director. So I told Donna about the job and told my boss about Donna and that she would be interested in applying for the job. Donna has a lot of skills in the outdoors. And so we said, well, we'll interview her. So the day of the interview, I'll never forget this. So I know Donna. Donna's not a big dress up person. She doesn't wear high heels very often or anything like that. Anyway, we're sitting at the interview and Donna comes into the interview and she's sitting there. She's got a really nice blazer on, suit and everything. And we're sitting at the interview and I noticed her leg had blood running down it. So after the interview, our director really liked her a lot. And after the interview, I walked on outside and I said, "What's happened to your leg?" She goes, "I tripped in the parking lot on these darn high heels." Anyway, Donna got the job at camp. And so she was the program director and I was the director of the facility.
You didn't start dating before that?
No.
Okay.
So anyway, we worked really closely together, started dating, and we were the camp roomer.
Of course.
And so the camp rumor was fulfilled, and we ended up getting married in 1992, I believe it was.
So how long did you date?
About a year and a half. Okay. I mean, we'd known each other longer, but we dated about a year and a half. So got married and lived there at camp, had our first daughter, when we were at camp. Shortly after we had our daughter was born on December 7th, Emma. And shortly after that, the camp decided to sell out. So we had no home, we had a new baby, and no jobs. So God really played a big part in our life at that time because we were looking for jobs and everything. And Donna was getting ready to take a job in Springfield, Missouri. And I said, let me call down to the regional office. I know a lady down there that used to work for me at camps and see if they have anything. This was pretty amazing. I hadn't talked to this lady for a long time. The phone rang while we were sitting there, and it was her, wanting to know if we were interested in coming to work. We're like, yep.
Yeah, I got so many of those God stories where so many things had to happen in a incredible way. And what seems so coincidental, if you read about it in a novel, you'd say, oh, well, this novelist is taking a shortcut. But really, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yes, it's incredible. And the other thing, since we had the baby, we had been traveling from St. Louis to Kansas City to see Donna's parents and to Neosho to see my folks during that time. So it was like doing a big triangle at holidays and stuff. I said, wouldn't it be great if we could live right in the middle? And we both agreed, man, it'd be awesome. Well, when we took the job, it was in Joplin, Missouri, but they said, we need somebody up around Lamar, Nevada. We've been able to be in Lamar, Nevada for the last 32, 33 years, and we were directly 1 mile difference between her folks and my folks. So God did put us right where we needed to be.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome. Let me back up just a little bit. I have to tell you, right before we got married, one of the things, Donna is pretty amazing. She's a bicyclist. So the summer we were getting married in September, and that summer Donna wanted to go on a bicycle trip before she got married. So Donna found an ad in a magazine, bicycle magazine, about some people that were going to ride from the West Coast to the East Coast.
Oh my! So just a little ride.
Yeah.
And you're talking West Coast, East Coast, America.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
not England.
Yeah. So anyway, she corresponded to them through mail and phone. She flew out to Astoria, Oregon, and met up with the people out there she'd never met before. And she rode her bike from the West Coast to the East Coast. I was able to meet up with her that summer in Missouri, but she did the whole thing in like 67, 68 days.
Oh my goodness.
So she's got that kind of spirit, and I love it.
Did they stay out at night in tents?
Yeah, they camped out, parks, RV parks, different
kind
things
of
like
your
that.
trip north.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they camped out and did all that.
Wow. I did not know that about her.
Yeah.
Oh, she's still fit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so in 89, my cousin and I, he and I rode a lot when we were younger too. My cousin Doug Hall, he's an artist down in Huckleberry Forest, Missouri. We had ridden some too. And so we had done a couple short trips. We tried to get across Kansas twice in 89 and 91. So the interesting thing about those two trips, Donna's trip and our trip, was that after time went by, we said after 20 years, we can't talk about those trips anymore. We got to do something new. But anyway, we lived in Missouri, in Nevada, raised our kids.
Did you do something new? Did you guys go on a trip?
That was my next trip to Rushmore. So we raised kids, did the parent thing and have two amazing daughters. One lives in Texas on a ranch now with her husband and has two kids. So we got two grandkids, which is awesome. And then my other daughter is in Colorado. So we got two great places to visit all the time. I can still do my skiing. And in fact, just got back from there about a week and a half ago.
Yeah, I was watching on Facebook. It looked like an amazing trip, huh?
Yeah. Still got the best of both worlds. And they both have good jobs, good kids. It was fun raising them. Two girls can be difficult at times, but
I'll ask Cody.
Yeah. But in the end, they're amazing people. I'm so proud of both those girls.
When did you buy the farm that you live on now?
We originally lived in El Dorado Springs, Missouri, and then we bought a house. We built a house in Nevada out west of town, and we stayed in that house for 5 years, and then we built the house that we're in now in 2000 and I think 2006 or 7.
Okay, because I've only ever seen that place. So all the times I saw you was at the fairgrounds.
Right.
Whenever we used to have the big gatherings there.
Yeah. So anyway, that's where, when we moved to Nevada, I found out about Heartland Horseshoeing. We were looking for horseshoers, and the fellow that was shoeing my horse, he was just doing it part-time in between jobs. And somebody told me about Heartland, and so I met you guys at the fairgrounds and started people kind of fizzled in and out of that thing. So I tried to organize that at the fairgrounds and stuff. And that worked pretty good for a while. I mean, it was a good thing. And anyway, about that time, I met a buddy at church. His name is Forrest, and he came to our church in about 7 years ago. And we were always had people over for dinner after church and everything. And he came over. He was brand new. He looked like a lost kid. Just came walking up to church his very first day. He came over to the house, and we ended up being friends. And I had been working out at the Y already, swimming, because I had gotten hurt in 2012, messed up my ankle, and I needed to get it back in shape.
By the way, when he says got hurt, he had his ankle pulled apart, right?
Yes. I got hung up in a stirrup on a young horse, and it went to bucking and threw me off, and my foot stayed in the stirrup, and when I got up, my toes were able to touch my calf.
Yeah. So. And the calf on the same leg.
Yes. So anyway, I'd been working out at the Y, getting back in, getting my leg back in shape and trying to get back to walk. The doctor said I'd never be able to run again and all this kind of stuff. And so here's another God thing. I had one little vessel in there. He was going to fuse my ankle together. And I had one little blood vessel in there he saw in the x-ray. He said, let's don't fuse it. Let's see what happens. And people at church were just praying, and I was praying, and I was, doing everything I could to get it mended up, and started swimming in the mornings, and at lunch I'd go swimming. I had a little scooter. I'd ride to the pool and go swimming every day. And eventually we saw progress. I mean, the artery started just kind of moving through the ankle, and I got blood flow back to my foot and was able to walk well on it.
And now you're like 100%, right?
I'm 100%.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and I'm running now. So I haven't stopped running since I've been able to run. But anyway, so I started doing that, and anyway, my buddy Forrest, he started asking about, where I was working out and everything, because he's a coach there at the high school now, and pretty athletic guy, and so he wanted to start working out, so we started swimming together. But he asked me about doing a triathlon one time, and I said, oh, I don't know about that. I'm not really into that kind of competition. But so we were getting ready to do one at Stockton, and I'll never forget, we were at the fairgrounds with the horseshoeing. Our runner that was going to do it bailed out on us, where they were shoeing the horse and everything. And Kelly was asking me about, have you been doing any, running or swimming? And I said, well, we're getting ready to do a triathlon, but we don't have a runner right now. We need to get a runner for that leg of the race. And there were one of the students there, his name was Jack. Do you remember him?
Oh, I got a story about Jack when you're done. So.
Okay. So anyway, he's working on my horse and everything. He goes, I'll run. And I didn't know him.
Was he wearing running shorts? Because he used to wear running shorts all the time.
He didn't have them on that day. And I didn't even know his name at the time. I just said, okay. I said, well, we got to sign up on this day. And did you want to practice or anything? Or he said, no, I'm okay. And, I told Forrest I found us a runner. And he goes, who is it? I said, his name is Jack. He said he wanted to run. Jack came up. We picked him up, and we went over and we got signed up and everything. Jack didn't talk too much. We got to, he's from New Zealand, I believe. Pretty good horseman. I remember him living in a hammock outside the horseshoeing school.
He
lived in the woods.
People much, especially in the bunkhouse.
Yeah. So he didn't say much to us. And, Forrest kept asking me, he's like, can this guy run? I said, I don't know.
He looked like he could.
I said, he looks pretty athletic, and he seems willing. So anyway, we went to Stockton Lake, and that's where the triathlon was. And so I did the swim part, and we did fine on that. And Forrest did the bicycle part. And then it was Jack's turn to run. And he had these little shoes on that had toes in them. I'm looking at Forrest. I said, this is really odd. So anyway, Jack's there. Forrest comes in, and Jack takes off running at a full sprint. And so that leg of the race is a 5K. And Jack takes off running. I said, oh, he's not going to make it. Not going to make it. Anyway, so we went over by where they were going to be coming in and everything. Jack had passed just about everybody. He was second in line of the runners coming in, and had the second, I think he had the fastest time in his class for all the men in that day. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That's how we met a lot of the students, and there was a couple, I remember David and Kyle, and they all came up. They were practicing for triathlons too. They were just all, and David, who was from Africa.
Yep.
Was interesting, because they came up and would practice swimming and everything. And I remember David telling me, he goes, yeah, I've been practicing my swimming and running. I said, well, where are you swimming at? He goes, those lakes down there by the highway? I said, you're not supposed to be in those. He goes, I found out. He goes, some guy came by and told me to get out of his lake. I said, it's just not open area like it is Africa.
Well, so about 2 years ago, maybe. So Jack came to school, and I was telling him about creation, and he did not know that there was anybody in the world that still believed in creation. He thought that evolution obviously was the answer, and so for me believing in creation, he thought that I was pretty strange. But I told him, because it's one of my favorite topics, so if he gets me started, I'll talk. And I had him go to church one time, but he only sat there, never said a word, got up when it was over, left, didn't shake hands, just gone, never said a word about it. And then I did a clinic in New Zealand, and he come saw me. He brought me this hide that something he had killed, and beautiful hide. I mean, he's a very interesting guy.
Yes.
And then I get a message on Facebook. He says, well, I thought I ought to tell you, I've been reading the Bible, and I should be thanking you for that. It has a lot more truth than I ever expected, and just thought I'd let you know. So, it's really, you never, ever know, because Jack was so stoic and so regimented in almost everything he did. You wouldn't have expected any seed to land on fertile ground. But he's married now, or at least he has a child, and he has a huge business.
Awesome.
Jack Weibly's his name in New Zealand. Yeah, very interesting guy.
He was a big inspiration to me too on the riding and everything. He told me about doing his trip around New Zealand on his horse, and then they had a couple of videos that he had done, and so I had watched that. Actually, watched all that before I went on my trip.
So he either liked somebody or he didn't like them, and there was nobody in the middle. And if he didn't like you, it was like you didn't exist.
Right? Yeah.
You could be sitting there and talk to him, and it was like you couldn't even hear it. But if he did like you, he liked you a lot.
I mean, I was pretty surprised that he hung with us to do the triathlon and everything. But I mean, we were glad to have him along, and he obviously did great. Surprised me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know what's inside people.
You never know. No.
You really don't know what's inside people. But life's been great there in Nevada and everything. And
you work for the state, right?
I worked for the state of Missouri Department of Mental Health for 27 years, retired in 2020.
Okay.
When all that COVID stuff was going on. So I retired then. And Donna just actually retired 9 days ago from the state.
Kidding.
So we're both retired.
Did she retire while she was in Colorado?
Yes, she did.
Okay.
We left on the 28th, and her last day was March 1.
And does she also work for the state as well, right?
Yes, we both work for the same department. Donna and I we actually have worked together our whole life, ever since we've been married. We've been in the same office or in the same place working.
I think that's a good thing for a family.
Yeah.
I think if a husband and wife can share a job, I have people say all the time, how can you work with your wife? I could never work with my wife. And I'm like, well, why would you marry somebody you couldn't even work with?
Right. Well, she's a pretty amazing lady. I mean, and I know Kelly is too. You guys have worked together your whole life.
Yep.
There's just something about that just brings you, keeps you close together. You know what's going on in each other's life. I mean, we were very fortunate and blessed to be able to do that, because I know a lot of people that have to split up and travel and things like that. And most of the time we got to travel together. So that was great.
That is really great. Now, she's not into horses near as much as you.
No, when we first got married, I was doing endurance racing. And so it was like 25, 50, and 100-mile races.
Were you riding the Arabs?
We were riding Arabs at the time. And Donna did ride on all those with me. So we used to travel on the weekends and go to endurance racing. That was a big part of our life, the racing and stuff.
Did your daughters do that?
Yes, Emma did. Elena didn't do it. Elena did some trips with me. Just actually, we used to ride from Nevada down to Sheldon, to some families down there, and so she used to do those trips, and she'd ride around the house. But Emma was my rider. She got hooked on the horses, and so she did endurance racing with me. She started when she was 5, did her first race when she was 5, a 25-miler.
Okay,
and
that's pretty good for a 5-year-old.
Yeah. So. We had some good horses in, and like I said, Donna used to ride in a lot of those with me. And then we started managing some endurance races around Missouri. Everybody kind of took their turns. If you were a racer all the time, then you would manage a ride. And we probably did that for about 15 years.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. Met a lot of really neat people over the years doing the rides and everything. And then we got to Nevada, and it kind of dwindled off. I started going to a cowboy church in Nevada. and started getting more back into the cowboy western type riding and everything, and met some really good friends there at church. They're just like family now, but started riding with them and started doing these ranch rodeos with guys that are like 37 years younger. I'm 66, going to be 66 this year.
Well, you guys can see the picture that we just took, and you'll notice I'm the one that looks older, and I'm 10 years younger than him, 13 years younger. Amazing.
But I really enjoy, anytime I'm on the back of a horse, I'm having fun.
Yep.
There's just something about, I always call it, traveling at the speed of life when you're on a horse.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Nevada used to be so strong for the, the horse groups and the FFA and the 4-H and all those kids. And we'd go up there and, it would be 30 horses every time we went.
Yep.
And it just kept dwindling. Those kids would move off, and it really changed, didn't it?
Yeah, it's changed. And I think it's starting to build back up. There's a younger group of kids coming in. One of the things that's been kind of neat over the years since Emma was in preschool, we used to do a farm day. And so we had an opportunity to give a lot of kids that were 4 and 5 years old their first ride on horses. They would come out to our house and we would do farm day. And so they got to, ride a horse and fish and everything. And just recently, we started doing a play day with kids at the arena at the Cowboy Church. And we had 40 kids show up with horses.
That's fantastic.
So young kids, little kids. So it's going to be interesting to see all that develop over the years. But yeah. So we started doing the farm day about almost 25 years ago. And so those kids are riding. I have a couple buddies that I ride with. Forrest is one. He'd never ridden before.
Right.
Started riding. And then another buddy, his name is Miles, and which is kind of interesting. He graduated with my daughter, and he had never ridden before either. But anyway, he started coming out the house and throwing some ropes with us and getting on the horses and everything. And now
he's ate up, huh?
He's ate up, and he's good.
Oh, that's cool.
They're just dedicated to it, and both of them are riding great and everything. And it's just developed, over time. I really get a lot of enjoyment out of watching people learn to ride.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because I see them change, I think, more than anything. The horse is pretty much the same, but the people change as they learn and they get those skills to ride and everything. And I'm sure it happens in other walks of life, but
we see it a lot at the horseshoeing school. Nobody leaves here the same person that they arrived.
Right. Exactly.
I remember Donna watching the final horse. In fact, she kind of inspired us to do
that.
She doesn't hang out with us very often when we're shoeing. And there was that kid took a final horse on one of yours.
Yes.
And she was so involved, and she was crying at the end when he didn't pass. And
I know.
Well, you got to pass him. I said, no, he didn't pass.
I think the thing that got her, I remember that kid, and he was, I remember him talking to Donna, and one of the things he said is that he had left home.
Right.
He had a son and his wife, and I don't know, I think he was from out east maybe, or.
If he's the one I remember, we called him Tupelo because he had that down south accent. So
that's right.
Yeah, he was like from Mississippi or somewhere.
Yeah, someplace. But he had told Donna that his little boy, right when he left to come to Heartland, he said, "Daddy, go make us a living." And it tore Donna up.
It did.
And then she said, "You guys need to make a reality show out of this Heartland horseshoeing, because it is, it's life condensed." Mm-hmm. The Heartland Horseshoeing School. It's condensed. Things that people learn over 75 years, you guys condense it down in, 12, 16 weeks.
It's crazy. But she did inspire us to start filming stuff, because of her reaction to that.
Yeah. And I think people really enjoy. I've watched all your episodes and everything, and those are just, it's fun to watch the kids because I know the kids that are on there. And so it's really fun to watch them. And, this was Aaron Harris, who did all your filming and everything. His brother, Cody, came to school here.
Right.
I struck up a friendship with Cody when he was here, and he was struggling. He had some wrist problem, I think.
Yes.
Really struggling bad with shoeing, but he was steady, and I really admired that about him. He didn't give up, but he also realized he had some limitations while he was here. And anyway, we stayed in touch, and I think it was I can't remember. We ended up going to Michigan.
To Mackinac Island, right?
To Mackinac Island, where they had worked as horseshoers, and his grandfather and his dad had worked as horseshoers and stuff, and actually got to stay with Cody and his family up there and visit with them. So, the kids at Heartland have really expanded my life and Donna's life. so interesting to visit with and to just learn about their lives, and I think we all learn from each other. And I just love having you guys come up.
Yeah, it's a cool tapestry to see the personality that a class has when you got somebody from everywhere. It is really. When we go to Chris's house, he has a few neighbors come over, and he always cooks hot dogs or has something for them to eat. And it's one of our, since there's not enough horses there, sometimes only one band gets to go. So it's always a little bit of a fight between Kelly and I about who gets to take Chris. And so some customers only see me, and some customers only see Kelly. And so you'll notice you kind of see us both throughout the year, because it's like, no, it's my turn. I get that account.
Right. Well, and I know when you guys come, one of you bring one group and the other being the other group, and it's interesting because some of the kids, we hit it right off, I mean, they're just, they want to be there. And I remember, I think it was last year, Levi and Brant. I mean, I just remember them. They helped me out a couple times in between shoeings at a rodeo when we were struggling with some shoes, and they ran right over and came over and helped us and stuff. And
Levi stayed.
Yeah,
he's still here.
I know. I heard he stayed in town. I've been trying to get together with him to go roping, and it's just always been.
Well, he's staying with Cody.
Yeah.
And so if you're with Cody,
no time off.
They're self-employed people work 90 hours a week, so they don't have to work 40. And Cody is introducing Levi to that.
Well, he's a good kid. He's a go-getter, so yeah. I know that he's enjoying all that time and learning a lot from Cody.
Yep.
But no, the kids are great.
So one thing I really wanted to talk about was this ride from Nevada, Missouri to South Dakota.
Yes.
You learned a lot on that ride, didn't you?
Oh, my gosh, yes. It was a pretty amazing trip. Like I said, Donna and I couldn't talk about our trips for 20 years of previous trips. So I think God puts these desires in your heart that you need to act on. And so that's always been on my mind to do another trip.
When did you set on Mount Rushmore as your target?
Well, that was interesting because I didn't really know where I was going to go, but I knew I was going to take off. And so Forrest, the kid that went with me, we were talking about the trip and everything. And I said, we want to go west. And I said, we can go across Kansas or whatever. And I said, you got any ideas? And so one evening we were just looking at different landmarks and places to go. And Rushmore came up. And I said, let's do it. We're just going to ride to Mount Rushmore. We started looking at maps and kind of getting a general idea, which we didn't have a specific route that we were going to take, except for the first 3 days, because it was close to home. We knew some stops along the way.
You only had the first 3 days truly planned?
Yes.
Oh my.
Yes. Yeah, the first 3 days. So anyway, Donna was very supportive. I mean, she's like, you need to do this trip because sometimes you just got to get those things out of your system. You guys came out and got the horses all ready. We put borium on the shoes and
for those of you that don't know, borium is also known as drill tech, and it's just a hard surface spots on the shoes. So they, number one, they don't slip as easily on concrete and asphalt, but also have a lot more wearability.
Right. We knew we were going to be on asphalt some. It's just no
void
getting around it, and so we didn't want to injure the horses or hurt ourselves by sliding on. We worked on. We got some pack panniards and pack saddle and got the borium put on, and we made 2 or 3 trips into town just to testing out just what it's like to pull a pack horse, because I'd never taken a pack horse before, which can be challenging sometimes taking an extra horse along. But we had quite a bit of gear. So the day before we left, my cousin who had done on the trip with me in Kansas, he goes, I'm going to come out and check out your gear. He goes, I'm sure you guys got way too much stuff. So he came up and he unloaded us. We had way too much stuff.
So that's whenever you lost your satellite TV.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. We didn't take our TV or anything. We took off June 1st, which was my 64th birthday. Packed up that morning, and my neighbor, Dave Mater, the day before, he goes, I think I'm going to go with you guys. I said, all right, get your bedroll and come on.
And did you have a horse for Dave, or did
Dave had his own horse?
Okay. And did we shoe it too?
Yes, you've shot a big black mare.
Okay. All right.
So anyway, June 1st, we got all packed up, got the horses ready to go. And a little mare that I was going to take, she was off a little bit on the front leg. So I ended up taking another gelding to start off with. So we had 2, a stock horse, a quarter horse, and a half Arab, half saddlebred horse that we started off with. And then Dave's mare, who was just a general stock horse as well. We left the driveway. It was kind of weird leaving the driveway, knowing you're not coming back for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
We rode the first 2 days, or 3 days, we rode to some friend's house. Josh Rushing, he's a horseshoer and horse trainer up near Hume, Missouri, and that was 38 miles up there.
The first day.
First day.
Did you have any trouble making that?
Yes, we did. We lost 2 shoes on the way there.
Hey, now, guys, just so you know, that happens, all right?
And it was purely accident. A horse stepped in a mow hole and then clipped it with his back foot. And so I was able to pull the shoe off. I've always learned from Chris, because the first question he asks when I lose a shoe is that, you got the shoe? So I always keep the shoes whenever we lose ones, because they're already set and ready to put back on the horse. Or if I have to put it back on, I can maybe get by. Anyway, we lost 2 shoes, one off 2 different horses. And I called Kelly and she goes, well, where are you? And I told her and everything. All the kids from the horseshoeing school came up in a van and met us on the road. And I mean, they checked they put the shoes on, they checked all the other horses, tightened the clinches down and everything, and said, we don't want you to lose any more shoes. And it was a great time visiting with them. And it was kind of exciting. We had 5 more miles to go that day, and we made it to our destination that day. And then from there, Dave has relatives in Kansas. So for the next 2 days, we stayed at his relatives in Kansas. And so we knew where we were going. The 4th day, though, Dave's horse had a little problem. And he stopped. It had stepped on something in the ditch, had a little cut, but it was swollen and lame. So he goes, well, I'll go ahead and stop. We traveled mostly at a trot.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So would you trot for 3 hours solid or trot for 20 minutes?
We'd usually trot maybe 3 or 4 miles and then walk a little bit, or get off and walk and then trot 3 or 4 more miles. And at a pretty fast, we were traveling 7, 8 miles an hour to trot.
My grandfather was in the cavalry when they had horses, and I stand to be corrected because this is a story of my youth that I remember, but I think they used to trot a mile, walk a mile, lead their horses a mile. And that was a standard movement whenever he was in. It was World War II.
Right.
And when the war came, when they got shipped over, they were handed a rifle and a pair of boots.
Yeah.
So anyway, go on, sir.
So anyway, we did a lot of trotting, but the 4th day was our first day to not know where we were going to stay. And we got to Pomona, Kansas. And there was a Casey's store there, which we got familiar with Casey's all the way across Kansas. They have donuts. So the first night we're there, and they wouldn't let us stay in the park, which I thought was really unusual, that they wouldn't let us stay in the park. And so we were asking around, and anybody know any place we can stay? We were behind the fire department there, and this car pulled up just to look at the horses. The horses were definitely an attraction. They were more attracted to the horses than they were us. Sure. So they wanted to pet the horses and everything. And then another car pulled up, and, they asked what we were doing, and we told them, and we're looking, any place that we could camp out. And they told us about a lake, which was another 8 miles down the road. But, when people are traveling by car, 8 miles is nothing to them. Right. When you're traveling by horse,
you're not even
and they say 8 miles. Yeah. And it's getting late. This lady came and she goes, well, I have a place that's about 4 miles down the road if you want to come and stay there. So we packed up our gear. You have no idea what you're getting into when you're staying at people's houses. But anyway, she had a place for us to put our tent out there. So David Reed from Africa, who's also out near Pomona, Kansas.
Yes, he did meet and marry a young lady in class who we call Elsa.
Yes.
And has...
Suzanne, I think is her name.
Her real name's Suzanne, yep. And so now he is living in Kansas.
Yeah.
Yes, sir?
Yeah. So I got a hold of Dave, and he goes, oh, I want to see you guys. So anyway, he goes, I'll pick up dinner. And so he came over there and met us, and we had Mexican food that night. We didn't even have to cook. So we all sat around in lawn chairs and caught up and visited with Dave. So that was a great evening. But we did learn a couple lessons on the first day. And I had told Forrest this from my trip years ago. I said 2 things we need to remember. Never leave your gear. Well, the other thing we learned too, don't leave your partner. Always stay together if you're going with somebody. And the people we were staying with said there may be a railroad trestle down here you can cross and then cut across this ranch and get to back to the highway, and it'll save you a bunch of miles. So I jumped on the 4-wheeler with this person, and we took off. And we were going a long ways on this 4-wheeler. And I'm thinking this was not a good idea to leave my partner back there. Anyway, I made it back, and I told him, I said, we're not
Doing that again, huh?
We don't do that again. Let's don't leave. So we got on. We made it across the ranch and everything. Had to, say goodbye to the folks. They were very nice. I mean, they took good care of us and everything. Had a good place to sleep and let us take a shower at their house because I don't think we'd had a shower for a day or two. Kansas was a lot of fun. We met a lot of neat people. I ran into somebody. It's always interesting the people that you meet on the trip, and God just continued to put people in front of us. And people started following. We had a Facebook page. It was called Ride to Rushmore. We had by the end of the trip, we had over 1,000 people following us on the trip and encouraging us. And, it was that was really neat. And each day we'd do a post of our day in the evening.
How did you keep your shirt so clean? I always wondered about that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the shirts. Okay.
Did you put on that shirt just for your post every day?
So we got these shirts. They're called poncho shirts.
Right.
It's a brand.
My brother wears one, and he's got the cell phone in an angle so you don't lose it and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So these poncho shirts that we had are very lightweight. They're easy to clean. You can just wash them out in a bucket.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. We just washed them in a bucket with soap, and they air dry like in 10 minutes and just slap them back on. And we knew we needed to wear white because we left in June, so we knew it was going to be hot.
Yeah.
And so those shirts were great. In fact, we sent a picture to Poncho, and then they put us on their website for when we crossed the Platte River.
Did they send you any free shirts?
Yes, they did.
Nice.
We got free shirts, we got T-shirts, and we got hats.
Well, man, that's awesome.
And we did some free advertising for them.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, so that was pretty neat.
Because I was always amazed every time I saw a post on Facebook. You look like you just stepped out of the house and jumped on a horse. You never look like there's no pit stains and blood everywhere.
Those shirts were amazing. I mean, I have to give them kudos for their shirts because they are really nice, and they have a lifetime warranty.
Oh, whose lifetime?
Yeah, whose lifetime? The shirts. Anyway, I have sent a couple of shirts back because I bought some more of them later on, and that had little problems with them or something, or the threads come out, and I sent them back, and they'd send us another shirt.
Nice.
And I got one on now, Poncho. They make flannel even.
I did not know that. All right, well, I may have to try them. Poncho, if you're listening, here's a unsolicited plug.
There you go.
All right, so 51 days later, and now Donna met you a few times, right?
Yes, she met us in Nebraska.
And did she ride the bike through
She rode, yeah. So we went across the trail in Kansas, and then we headed north. We wanted to catch, there's a trail in Nebraska called the Cowboy Trail. And it goes all the way from Norfolk, Nebraska to Chadron, Nebraska, which is about 300 miles. And so Donna and her friend Vicky, they took an RV up there, and they did some of the Cowboy Trail and then met us a couple times on the trip. So I did get to see Donna a couple times, but it was strange 51 days, that's the longest we'd ever been apart in our lives. Yeah. So that was different.
Yeah.
Really different.
Did she stay out with you the time you stayed there? Did she sleep outside?
Yeah. Okay. Well, they had the RV, so we stayed at the RV park.
You guys stayed in the RV instead of them staying on the ground.
We just picked the horses in the pasture there and then stayed in the RV.
All right.
And then they found us a couple places to stay. I had met another guy up there, and when they were actually 2 times they found us places to stay while they were traveling on their bicycles because they told folks that we'd be coming through. So people knew we were coming. And so when we got there, they go, yeah, your wife was here just a few days ago, and she said you'll be coming through. So yeah, we had access to cabins to stay in, and people even brought us trucks or vehicles so we could drive into town, let us stay in their homes while they were gone. But people knew we were coming.
Right.
So that's a little bit different. And the other thing that changed, I think cell phones make a trip so different now than they used to, because I could call Donna anytime.
Right.
When my cousin and I went across Kansas, the only thing we had was pay phones to use.
Yeah.
So it changes, it kind of changes the look of a trip now with the cell phones, but we were glad we had them. I mean, Forrest is very technologically savvy.
Okay.
Yeah, where I'm not. And so he would use some of the GPS sometimes so we find some back roads to cut through.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah, we got up, we made it through, met some amazing people out in western Nebraska, and they don't want me to talk about how great they are out there because they're afraid everybody will come out. I was told that more than once. Don't tell people about us.
What is the code word for Nebraska? Let's say California.
Yeah, California. There you go. But they're super amazing people, and learned a lot from them. And, the farther west we got, the more horsemen and cowboys we ran into, and so they were pretty excited. And people just, they would just say, "Man, I want to do that. I want to do that.
Yeah,
I want to do what you're doing." They started following us on the Facebook and just kind of living.
I wonder how many trips you've inspired. I bet there's some.
I don't know. I mean, it would be interesting to know that, because there were so many people that said they want to do it. And I hope some of those folks, I know some of them are in a stage of life or a season in their life, they can't do it yet. But I mean, if they're listening, I just say, when you get to the point where you can take some time to go do it, you really need to follow your dream on that.
All right. So all these amazing people in, quote, California, unquote.
Yes.
So how long did you stay at Mount Rushmore?
We were just in Mount Rushmore for 2 days.
Was it a letdown or was it?
Well, it was interesting. The day before we got to the Black Hills, a buddy of Forrest, who's from, he lives in South Dakota on the eastern side, came down and he rode with us to where we could see the Black Hills. That's an interesting thing when you're on a horse, when you can see the mountains or the hills in front of you and they look like they're right there, but it's actually 25 miles away.
Yeah, not till the next day.
Right, till the next day. But anyway, we got into the Black Hills, and so that was pretty exciting to get into the Black Hills and know that we were actually probably going to make it. We'd had great weather. We had 5 minutes of rain during the day the whole time in 51 days.
You're kidding.
No. We had a couple showers at night, a couple of storms, but during the day riding, we did not have any rain.
That's crazy.
I know. It was, yeah, we had left the Arabia Ranch, and I remember it rained about 10 minutes that morning, and the rest of the time, that was all the rain we had the whole trip. But anyway, so we got into the Black Hills, and we knew we were getting close. We stayed at a really awesome campground there. It's run by the state. So they gave us a trail to get from that campground to the next campground. We both had been very healthy the whole trip. We had camped out at our last campground. We had 5 miles to ride to Rushmore. And so 5 miles in the Black Hills is different than riding 5 miles down the highway. It's a little bit slower and a little bit trickier to get through some of the trails. We got up that morning and, I'm pumped because we're going to make it. Forrest was not getting out of his sleeping bag. And I'm like, you all right? I said, we need to get going, because Donna was going to be there, and my good friends, Jed and Natalie Umfenauer, they brought their whole family up because they were going to
there's newspapers and radio stations and TV stations.
Well, we didn't know all that yet.
Okay.
Anyway, Forrest got up, and he was sick, throwing up sick.
Oh, no.
And I was like, this cannot be. I mean, we had both been feeling good the whole trip, just feeling healthy. The neighbors that were camping out near us invited us over to eat the night before at their place. So I'm not sure if he picked up something bad there or what happened, but finally he got it all out of his system and it was a little bit weak. But anyway, he finally got moving and I got the horses saddled and everything. And he got all the bags packed and we took off. And so the last 5 miles, it was like, we were just we took it kind of slow. One, he wasn't feeling that great, but two, it was last day.
Yep.
And that's a very, very strange feeling. So we were coming into Mount Rushmore and we got to a bluff where we could see Mount Rushmore, which was just, it's like, we did this.
Yeah.
We actually did this. And we finally got to the park, pulled up there. And of course I see Donna, which I'm excited to see her. And then I see my friend Jed and his family there. And then Julie and Dave. Dave Mater, who started with us, he and his wife drove that night, all night long, to come up and meet us at Rushmore. So we get there, and there's all these other people there, too, which I didn't know who they were. But anyway, there was a news reporter there. My daughter in Colorado had called the news reporter and told her we were coming in. And so they did an interview with us, and the marketing people from Rushmore were there, and they gave us T-shirts and just gave us a huge welcome. We piddled around there and visited and talked and hugged and, everybody got interviewed. They were interviewing everybody about us and stuff. And so that was pretty fun. So when we got done, it was time, Jed helped us with the horses and got the horses in the trailer and we tied up and we said, well, we're going to spend the night here in Keystone there. Nobody knew where we were going to stay. What was really an odd feeling was like, when we were traveling, we just, something always came up where we could stay. Well, now we had a group of 9 people and we had no place to stay. Anyway, so one of the marketing people there had contacted somebody and they had a cabin someplace. So we went and stayed there and got organized. And it was so different in our mind because had just been Forrest and I traveling. He packed the gear. I got the horses ready and we go. Now we had 9 people and I said, boy, this feels so different.
Oh,
that
yeah.
We're back. But anyway, we spent the night in Keystone and had a great time. Took the kids back over the next day. Went and visited Rushmore, did the tour, watched the movie. So the families got to do all the stuff at Rushmore. And we had a great time. It was just good to be with everybody again. And
Did you keep a journal?
well, actually, we did on Facebook, we did the journal. And then my friend Natalie put all of our posts together in one book over the 51 days. And she made us a copy of all that. So it has every day in there.
You right now have the more or less a Facebook book, hard copy.
Yeah,
huh?
of every day.
Is really cool.
I wasn't expecting that. And she had made that. That was an awesome gift to have.
Oh, yeah. No kidding. What a cool thing, Chris.
So that was fun. And then we took off and loaded up the horses and headed back and spent one night in South Dakota there and then took a hot journey back home. On the way home, the air conditioner went out on the truck. Well, we did have air conditioning one night, and I remember Forrest saying that was the best night he ever slept. One, because I was in another room and he didn't have to listen to me snoring. And
Oh, my. What kind of books do you like to read? You gave me a book, and just so you know, it's called Ride the Wind, and it's about the Abernathy boys, and they took a trip as like 5 and 8-year-old.
yes, they rode from
Oklahoma to Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Yep. And then at one point they rode from New York all the way to San Francisco.
So this is a interesting book. It was written, the style of writing is kind of enjoyable, but I got to say, I have some problems with this book. They had to stop one day because one of the horses had foundered, but it
Yeah.
wasn't a big deal. Then they went on.
Yeah.
And then the cowboy caught the kid with a loop. He was 50 feet away, and he threw his loop, and it went right around his neck. Well, the 50-foot lariat, and I don't know.
There's some long shots in there. And then the father, okay, so the father, their father was a pretty wild man, but he was known, or so known for chasing down wolves on horseback, jumping on their back, and then shoving his fist down their throat to kill them. And actually got to the point where Theodore Roosevelt wanted to come out and ride with this guy because he thought it was so intriguing. There is a couple of YouTubes on it, but you never see him actually jump off the horse onto the
Onto the wolf. And then kill it by putting his hand in his mouth.
Yeah. It's interesting to me that 2 kids that young could ride that far anyway.
Oh, my gosh.
You know, I don't even think we'd let a 8 and 5-year-old go 5 miles from the house on a horse into another town.
It's a very different time, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Well, this book is fantastic. Is it going to be a coffee table book for sale or anything?
Well, it could be. I doubt I'd sell it. If somebody wants one, I'd give him one.
Oh,
Get him one made. I'll get you one made. But yeah, it journals every day of the trip, and it's got the pictures in it for each day. And so as you can see, we didn't change clothes the whole trip.
right. And it's a clean white shirt every day. When you guys look at this, you'll notice what I noticed on Facebook.
Yeah, and so you can find it on Facebook if you want to look at all the pictures and stuff there. It's called Ride to Mount Rushmore. And I think you just have to click to join or something, and you can get on and see the trip. But it was a trip of a lifetime. It was just amazing to be able to have that much time to do it.
Yeah, what a cool thing.
Yeah, so people were great to us. But anyway, you were asking me about books to read. You know, lately I've just been primarily reading devotionals and the Bible because I've been just doing devotionals every week, different topics and things like that. I've been reading your book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have to admit I haven't gotten through it yet.
Well, it is a long book. It's
It's not that long, Chris.
150 pages or something with a lot of pictures.
Yeah, I wish I was a better reader than when the sun's out, I have a hard time sitting down reading.
Oh, yeah.
And then in the evening, when it's time to read or I get a chance to read, I fall asleep. But I do try to catch, my best reading time is like 4:30 in the morning to 5.
Mm-hmm.
I usually read then, and then I go into the Y after that to work out and stuff.
Yeah, you're still, if you guys ever see Chris, he looks like he's 20-year-old body with a 45-year-old head. But in reality, it's his age is that combined. Huh?
Yeah.
Well, is there anything you would like to talk about that we haven't touched on?
Oh, gosh. It seems like we've been through a lot. Went through my whole life here just about.
It was fantastic.
I mean, I've enjoyed this. You don't really get it. I would encourage other people to do their own podcast, really. It kind of gives you a chance to reflect and think about things. But, life is good. And I think one of the things I learned during the trip, and I'll never forget this, we did a horse exchange one time. And the pastor from the Cowboy Church, he told me when I left, his name's Roger Beach. He said, if you need anything on the trip, you call me. I'll be there whenever you need me. And I did need him to bring a horse up to me. And he drove a horse all the way up to Ewing, Nebraska for me to switch one out. And another buddy did that too, Miles McNeely. And I was telling Roger, about the trip because I said, we expected a lot more hardship. And he goes, you know why you're not having hardship? Is because you're seeing good in everything. I will never forget him telling me that, is that we did see good in stuff. We saw good in people. And so when you expect good, I think you get good.
There's a lot to be said for that when you live somewhere. You can decide that this is a great place, or you can decide it's a horrible place, and you color everything with that, right?
Exactly.
It's almost like you're the news media in your own head, right?
Yeah.
You can tell the story from whichever angle.
Exactly. What kind of glasses you're wearing, are you seeing good or are you just seeing bad? And so I think that was one of the things, because we look back on the trip thinking, oh, it's going to be, it's going to be hard. We had all this gear packed that we're going to need and everything like that. And
did you carry a pistol?
No, we did not.
Okay.
We did not carry any and never even had a need for it. I'm hoping to do another trip and leave from Mount Rushmore and go to Idaho after Donna retired. So she's got to take a retirement trip. So she's going to do a bicycle trip, maybe north to south this time. And then after that, I'm hoping to ride from Rushmore to Jerome, Idaho, where my brother lives, and then eventually to the West Coast, if I live long enough. So, I mean, I'm keeping that out in front of me. But I was told that when we leave from Rushmore to go out west, you will take if not so much for, for fear of people, but fear of
bear or something.
Yeah, we become the bottom of the food chain.
If you just do what the Abernathy's boy did, whenever a wolf attacked, just reach in his mouth.
There you go. Yeah. I don't know how I'd fare with the bear on that deal, but that'd be kind of rough. But no, this has been fun, Chris.
Chris is, I've known you for a long time, but I haven't known you this well until after this interview. And guys, look up Ride to Rushmore on Facebook. And if you have any questions about how to do something like that, get a hold of Cris Rodriguez in Nevada, Missouri. Sir, it's been an absolute honor and pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chris. This is great.
My daughter Jacqueline married Cameron, a cowboy's cowboy and a farrier from a big ranch in Mexico. They grew their dream in Missouri as they grew their family, but Jacqueline wanted to feed her family the best, and the difficulty of doing this when it came to great meat led to the start of CJW Pinot Ranch. Their animals are respectfully raised, antibiotic and hormone-free, and taste like the meat used to taste when I was a kid. You won't find better pork chops than one that came from a pig raised in the timber under God's sunlight. Or a tastier chicken that got to move to fresh grass in the pasture every day. Or a ribeye that came from a steer that roamed around 500 acres of Missouri hills and got finished on non-GMO grain. If you care about what you and your family eat, check out cjwpinoranch.net. They ship every week. You can pick it up from their farm or catch them at one of the farmers markets they go to. Wholes and halves are available as well. Folks, you're going to really like this meat.